All right, listeners, welcome back to the deep dive. And today we're strapping in and taking this thing way up high for a deep dive into the F-22 Raptor.
Yeah, this one is really a beast.
Yeah, this is one of those aircrafts that is truly dominant in the sky. And we've had a lot of requests to do this deep dive, and thankfully, our listeners have sent in some just absolutely fantastic source material.
Oh yeah, fantastic material.
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of great excerpts, and we've pulled out all the core details about the Raptor's groundbreaking design, its capabilities, and some of the pilots who have commanded it.
And some amazing pilots.
Yeah, some really impressive pilots for sure. And the mission here is really simple. I think a lot of folks when they start looking into the F-22, it can get really complex really fast.
Oh yeah, lots of technical jargon.
So we want to try and cut through that for you
Right.
and really, extract the most compelling insights about this aircraft. So no crazy, overwhelming jargon here, just the stuff that'll really, make you think.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Exactly. So one of the first things that kind of jumped out at me when I was looking at the source material was, something you might have noticed too is you don't really hear about F-22s having individual names. You like those famous World War II fighters?
Yeah, right.
Like, the P-51 Mustangs?
Like the Memphis Belle?
Yeah, exactly. You don't hear about an F-22 with a nickname painted on the side, Cripes A Mighty or Old Crow.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? So, like, what's the story there?
Well, it turns out, and the material kind of explains this, is that these modern aircraft, like the F-22, they're typically part of a shared pool. Pilots don't usually have a personal assigned aircraft the way those WWII pilots did back in the day.
Oh, I see.
But what is really cool is how the history and spirit of those old squadrons lives on.
Yeah.
You've got units like the 27th Fighter Squadron, the Fightin Eagles, and the 94th Fighter Squadron, the Hat in the Ring, and they both fly F-22s today.
Oh, wow.
And their lineages trace back, all the way to World War I and the intense battles of World War II.
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
It's a pretty amazing connection to, aviation's past.
Yeah, that is really cool. It's a really powerful link. It kind of underscores the enduring importance of these units, I think. But, we're here to talk about the Raptor.
Let's talk about the Raptor.
The aircraft itself. So let's get into that. The source is laid out pretty clearly. This is a fifth-generation, twin-engine, all-weather stealth fighter.
Yeah, it really is a purpose-built machine.
It is. And its primary mission is air superiority.
Yeah.
So making sure that the U.S. Air Force controls the skies.
Controls the skies.
But it's also really adaptable. It can handle ground attack, electronic warfare, and even gathering signal intelligence.
Yeah, that adaptability is really crucial in today's, complex kind of operational environments.
But absolutely.
But I think, when you look at what really sets the F-22 apart from other aircraft, there are three core attributes that, consistently come up in the material.
Yeah, what are those?
You've got its just unparalleled agility. It's, just crazy how maneuverable this thing is.
Oh, yeah.
Its groundbreaking stealth capabilities. This thing is designed to be invisible.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly advanced avionics. the technology in this thing is really something else.
Yeah, it's pretty mind-blowing.
So let's kind of unpack this a bit, starting with, the fundamental design and the key components that really make this aircraft so unique.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll let you take this one.
Okay, cool. So the airframe itself is like an engineering marvel, honestly.
Yeah.
The sources, emphasize the extensive use of composite materials,
Yeah.
which are lighter and stronger than traditional materials.
Yeah.
And these radar-absorbent coatings they use that significantly reduce its radar signature. And the shaping of the aircraft is exceptionally precise.
Oh, yeah.
Like all of these elements, they work together to make it incredibly difficult for radar to detect the F-22.
Yeah. So it's not just about, being unseen. It's about having, this huge tactical advantage, by remaining essentially invisible.
Yeah, invisible to the enemy sensors.
Yeah, to the enemy sensors.
Yeah.
So, it's like trying to catch a ghost.
It really is.
And then you look at the avionics.
Yes, the avionics.
Particularly the AN/APG-77,
Oh, yeah.
active electronically scanned array radar, or the ASA radar.
The ASA radar.
It sounds like something straight out of, science fiction.
It kind of does, yeah.
So what makes this such a game changer?
Well, so this is really fascinating because it's a quantum leap in capability.
Okay.
Unlike older radars that physically move to scan,
All right.
the ASA can track and engage numerous targets simultaneously
Oh, wow.
and at much greater distances.
Okay.
So think about that for a second, like a lone Raptor encountering a formation of older aircraft.
Yeah.
This radar doesn't just see one or, it sees all of them at once, and it can prioritize the threats and give the pilot an unprecedented tactical edge, often before the other pilots are even aware that the F-22 is there.
That's crazy.
I know, and crucially, and this is super important for a stealth aircraft,
Right.
the ASA radar also contributes to reducing the F-22's own radar signature.
So it's even harder to detect?
Yeah, it's like having superior vision and also being better at hiding at the same time.
So it's like a force multiplier on top of the stealth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about what it can bring to a fight. The sources detail the F-22's internal weapon bays, and that's another really critical element of stealth, right?
Absolutely.
Keeping those missiles and bombs concealed until the very last moment.
Yeah, until they're needed.
So how does that work exactly?
Well, by carrying its primary weapons internally, the F-22 avoids all those radar-reflecting surfaces that external stores would create.
Oh, I see.
But despite this, it can still carry a pretty formidable arsenal.
Yeah.
6 AIM-120 ARAMs and 2 AIM-9 Sidewinders for air-to-air engagements. And don't forget the M61A2 Vulcan rotary cannon
Oh, yeah, the Vulcan.
with 480 rounds.
480 rounds, that's a lot of lead.
It is for those closer range threats.
Yeah, so it's not solely focused on air combat, right?
Right.
The sources also mention its ability to carry, precision-guided air-to-ground ordnance.
Yes.
They mentioned JDAMs as an example.
Yeah.
So it has that flexibility to handle different types of missions.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, so let's move into the cockpit because it sounds incredibly advanced.
It is.
You read about a glass cockpit and holographic displays.
Yeah.
It paints a picture of a really sophisticated workspace for the pilot.
Yeah, it really is state-of-the-art. And, the hands-on throttle and stick controls or OTES controls are like fundamental to modern fighter design.
Okay.
It'll let the pilot manage all those essential aircraft functions without ever needing to take their hands off the primary controls.
Yeah.
So that means they can stay focused on flying and the tactical situation.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
But I think probably the most significant aspect for the pilot is the sensor fusion technology.
Yeah, sensor fusion. That sounds like it's really at the heart of the pilot's effectiveness. So what exactly does it do?
Okay, so think of it this way. The aircraft is constantly collecting a massive amount of data from all its onboard sensors.
Yeah.
The radar, the electronic warfare systems, even information from other friendly aircraft via data links.
Wow.
Sensor fusion acts like this intelligent filter.
Mm.
An integrator, it takes all that raw data, processes it, and presents the pilot with this single, clear, easily understandable picture of the entire battle space.
Oh, wow.
So this drastically reduces the potential for information overload, and it significantly enhances the pilot's situational awareness.
That's huge.
It's huge, especially in the high-speed, high-stakes environment of aerial combat.
Makes sense.
It's not just about having more data. It's about turning that data into actionable intelligence.
Yeah, in real time.
Yeah, in real time.
Yeah.
Imagine how much that reduces the workload for the pilot. They can concentrate on strategy and execution rather than being overwhelmed by all this information.
It's a whole different way of thinking about combat effectiveness.
Yeah. It really is a paradigm shift.
All right, so let's switch focus to what gives this machine its power, the power plant.
Okay.
2, Pratt & Whitney F-119 PW100.
Oh, yeah.
After burning turbofan engines with two-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles.
Those are a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a pretty technical description there. So what does that translate to in terms of, real-world performance?
Well, these engines are truly remarkable.
Yeah.
Each one generates approximately 35,000 pounds of thrust,
That's a lot.
which is an immense amount of power.
Yeah.
But the real innovation is the thrust vectoring.
Yeah.
So these nozzles can actually pivot up and down.
Really?
Yeah, allowing the aircraft to perform these incredibly agile maneuvers that would be physically impossible for jets with those conventional fixed nozzles.
Oh, wow.
So imagine a fighter jet not just relying on its wings and tail to turn,
Yeah.
but also being able to point its exhaust, like a directional hose.
That's crazy.
It gives the F-22 this almost unnatural ability to maneuver, executing turns and climbs that older aircraft just can't do.
Yeah.
And this, combined with the power of the engines, is what gives the F-22 that unmatched agility that we keep talking about.
Yeah, and it's not just about outturning other aircraft out there, right?
Right.
The sources also mention the supercruise capability.
Yeah, super cruise.
And that's the ability to maintain supersonic flight without having to burn through all that fuel in the afterburners.
Yeah.
So that's a huge tactical advantage.
It is a big advantage. The F-22 can supercruise at around Mach 1.82.
Wow.
So this sustained high-speed flight, it lets it cover vast distances really quickly.
Yeah.
Intercept potential threats much faster, and basically, dictate the terms of engagement.
But get to decide how the fight's going to go.
Pretty much. And when maximum speed is required, it can hit Mach 2.25.
Which is
over 1,500 miles per hour.
That's incredibly fast.
It is. And a service ceiling of 65,000 feet.
Wow.
So it's got a pretty substantial altitude advantage over many other aircraft as well, giving it a commanding view of the battle space.
So it's incredibly fast, exceptionally maneuverable, and it can operate at very high altitudes.
Yeah.
What about its reach?
Okay.
Let's talk about its range and overall operational capacity, because the figures in the sources are pretty impressive.
They are impressive on internal fuel alone.
Okay.
The F-22 has a combat radius of approximately 590 miles.
Okay.
And if you need to go further, its ferry range with external fuel tanks is over 1,840 miles.
Wow. So it can really get out there.
It can, but it's true. Global reach is really enabled by its aerial refueling capability.
Yeah, aerial refueling.
Which essentially removes any significant geographical limitation.
Yeah, because they can just keep topping it off in the air.
Yeah, exactly. They can get fuel from tanker aircraft.
So that turns it into a true global power projection asset.
Pretty much.
Okay, so to bring a, kind of a human perspective to all of this cutting-edge technology.
Yeah.
The sources provided a list of 10 notable F-22 Raptor pilots.
Oh, cool.
And it's fascinating to see the level of experience and expertise that these individuals have. It really shows you the caliber of the people who fly this aircraft.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, take Paul Max Mawarga, for instance. He was one of the early demonstration pilots, showing off what the Raptor could do. And he's got over 2,000 hours flying fighter aircraft.
Yeah, and then you've got David Zeke Skalicki, another former commander of the Raptor demonstration team.
Yeah.
Over 2,500 flight hours.
That's a lot of time in the air.
It's a lot of time, and it's interesting how many of these pilots have, moved into leadership roles within the Air Force.
Yeah, that's true.
Which really says something about, the level of skill judgment and strategic thinking that's required to operate these aircraft.
It really does. You need to be top-notch to fly this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have to mention Rob Novotny.
Oh, yeah, Rob Novotny.
He served as a squadron commander and was crucial in those early operational deployments of the F-22.
Yeah, he was there from the beginning.
And he has over 3,000 hours in all sorts of high-performance jets, F-15s, F-16s, F-22s.
Wow, he's a very experienced pilot.
And then you have figures like General Jeffrey Harigian, a former commander of U.S. Air Forces in Europe, thousands of hours in the F-15E and the F-22. I mean, these are people operating at the highest levels of military command.
Yeah, they are.
It's also important to highlight someone like John J.J. Jumper, a former chief of staff of the Air Force.
Oh, yeah, General Jumper.
He played a crucial role in the development and acquisition of the Raptor.
He was a big supporter of the program.
Yeah, to have someone with that level of strategic insight also have, firsthand experience flying the aircraft.
That's pretty unique.
It's really quite remarkable.
It is.
And we can't forget Colonel Terry Scott.
Yeah, Colonel Scott.
He was vital in shaping the training for future F-22 pilots, passing on his knowledge and experience.
Yeah, he helped create the curriculum.
Yeah, and then you have Michael Dozier-Schauer, a former test pilot who helped define the tactics and, the way the F-22 is actually used in combat.
Yeah, he was pushing the limits of the aircraft.
It's fascinating to see how their direct experience really shaped the aircraft's, role and doctrine.
Oh, for sure, they were instrumental.
We should also mention Daniel Crunch Flynn.
Oh, yeah, Crunch Flynn.
3,000 hours of flight time, and he's doing a lot of work in advanced fighter pilot training.
Yeah, he's training the next generation.
He's a prime example of the deep well of expertise that exists within the F-22 community.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent there.
And then we have Lieutenant Colonel James Red Morgan.
Oh, yeah, Red Morgan.
Instrumental in developing some innovative squadron-level strategies, really maximizing the Raptor's potential.
Yeah, he was thinking outside the box.
And finally, we have to acknowledge Nicole Vapor Ayers.
Oh, yeah, Vapor.
One of the few female pilots to fly the F-22.
That's awesome.
Her experience and her advocacy are really important for encouraging more diversity in fighter aviation.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have different perspectives.
All these individuals with their different backgrounds and experiences really represent the top tier of airmanship and tactical expertise.
Yeah, the best of the best.
It really humanizes the technology, when you consider the skill and dedication of the people who fly these machines.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to forget there are people behind the technology.
So to bring our deep dive to a close here,
Okay.
what are the essential takeaways about the F-22 Raptor?
Well, I think it's clear from the sources the F-22 represents a groundbreaking fusion of stealth technology,
Yeah,
exceptional speed and maneuverability,
unmatched agility.
and cutting-edge avionics.
Yeah, state-of-the-art technology.
It's designed to achieve and maintain air superiority.
And it's been very successful in that role.
Oh, yeah, it's dominated.
And even though production ended back in 2011,
Right.
it's clear from the material that the F-22 is still the U.S. Air Force's, top air superiority fighter.
Yeah, it's still the king.
Its impact on aerial warfare is huge, and I think it's going to continue to be felt for years to come.
I agree. Its innovative design and capabilities have influenced the development of all these future fighter aircraft programs, like the NGAD program.
The next generation air dominance.
Yeah, exactly. The lessons learned from the Raptor are shaping the future of air combat.
So considering all these advancements we've talked about,
Yeah.
here's a thought for you to consider. How might future aerial conflicts look different from those we've seen in the past?
That's a good question.
Or with the NGAD program, what key capabilities do you think will be prioritized even beyond what the Raptor can do?
Yeah. What's next?
It's a constantly evolving landscape, and the F-22 has definitely set a very high bar.
It has.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the F-22 Raptor.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time on the Deep Dive.
See you then.